One of the wildest non-waiver trade deadlines in recent memory has passed, and it's hard to find a team that doesn't look at least a little different than it did a month ago. More movements could certainly follow once players pass through waivers, but with July 31 in the rear view, most clubs are pretty well settled for the run to the finish. With that in mind, here's a post-deadline reset for each National League East team. And it's quite a reset, since there was plenty of buying and selling among the 5 clubs. Video, Anthopoulos discusses Braves adding Gausman, Duvall Braves what they did at the deadline acquired Kevin Gausman, Adam Duvall, Darren O'Day, Brad Brach and Johnny Venters in 4 deals involving prospects and international bonus money. What it tells us? Braves are taking their opportunity to contend seriously. It wasn't entirely clear before this week, but bolstering the bullpen and bench are contenders' moves. Gausman is more a long-view acquisition, but he should also help this year. What's the goal? Win the division, moving that contention window up a year. An NL wildcard berth would be nice, but the NL East is very much in play, and the Braves are taking their shot. Big question even with Gausman, do they have enough in the rotation? Julio Teheran is still inconsistent, Mike Foltynewicz has faded in the second half, and it's an open question how their younger starters will hold up. And nearly everyone in this division can throw quality starters at you night after night. Video, EMEA at ATL, Hill on Marlins trade deadline deals. Marlins what they did at the deadline traded Brad Ziegler and Cameron Maybin for prospects. What it tells us, Miami felt no urgency to move its more desirable pieces just to move them. The players who drew the most attention, J.T. Realmuto, Kyle Barraclough, Drew Steckenrider can't be free agents anytime soon. Sure, they could get moved at some point, but not at a discount. If you want them, pony up. What's the goal? Keep seeing progress. This season will be a success if the young players at the higher levels of the system and in the minors stay healthy and keep developing. Big question, can they sign Realmuto? In fairness, this probably won't be answered until the offseason, if not later, but this is the question. If the Marlins can convince him to stick around long-term, they have a critical building block at the heart of their roster. Video, Rico on Mets keeping pitching assets at the deadline. Mets what they did at the deadline traded Asdrubal Cabrera and Jeurys Familia for prospects. What it tells us, things can change, but as of now, the Mets identify 2019 as a season in which they will compete. They elected to hold on to Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Zach Wheeler and Steven Matz, who they hope will form the core of a contender next season. What's the goal? Stay healthy in the rotation and gain more clarity as to what the 2019 Mets will look like. If they can play spoiler a bit, so much the better. Big question, how healthy can they count on those starters to be? The Mets need to improve their offense next year, but once again, any chance they have at winning in 2019 comes down to the health of the dynamic rotation. Matz, who has forearm issues, is the latest with a health question, but they all need to avoid injury. Video, Martinez, Rizzo on trade deadline decisions. Nationals what they did at the deadline traded Brandon Kintzler and Brian Goodwin for prospects. What Attell's uses with the Mets. What's most interesting about the Nats is what they didn't do. They didn't ship out Bryce Harper, Kelvin Herrera, Gio Gonzalez or Daniel Murphy. But neither did they address their catching situation or bolster their pitching staff. So they still expect to contend, but they know October baseball is not a given this year. What's the goal? It's a bit different than in April, because at this point sneaking into the postseason would be a success. But it would still be hard for most folks in Nats land to be satisfied if they go another year without playing in the NL Championship Series. Big question. Well, the biggest question looms after the season, of course. But until then, the question is what the Nationals will get from their non-Max Scherzer starters. Some combination of a healthy Steven Strasburg and improvement from Gonzalez and Tanner Roark would go a very long way toward curing what ails Washington. Video, Clentak, Capelleron, Ramos and Loop acquisitions. Phillies what they did at the deadline: acquired Wilson Ramos, Aaron Loop and Cabrera in trades. What Attell's uses with the Braves. The Phillies acted like a contender, moving to shore up weaknesses on this year's club. But it's also worth noting that they didn't do anything to address their rotation and not much for their bullpen. The Phils have faith in both, and they believe that they're just fine on the pitching side of things. What's the goal? It's very simple: win the division for the first time in 7 years. Big question. Weird they write about the rotation. Nick Pivetta, Vince Velasquez and Zach Eflin have all shown moments of brilliance, but also plenty of inconsistency. The tools are there for them to be very good. If their results match their abilities, the Phils are in very good shape. Matthew Leach is the National League Executive Editor for MLB.com.